Welcome to Cape Connect. We have a series about businesses and organizations, people and personalities. I'm here with Carol Miller, and it's our great fortune to be able to interview the owner and chef at the Jerk Cafe. And Carol, we've had a great meal there. I've had several. And how are we going to do this show? Where do we start?
Well, we'll start with Glenroy Solomon Burke, who is nicknamed and known as Chef Shrimpy. And I first met Mr. Shrimpy, Chef Shrimpy, through his book, Life's Rivers Cross. And it's a story about a man who has, as a boy growing up under great deprivation and having to postpone his dreams, and worked very, very hard. So I'll be getting back to the book with him, but let me first ask you, Chef Shrimpy,
Absolutely.
how you first decided to become a chef.
Growing up in Jamaica as a little boy, life was very, very hard. I see it in the community. My parents is the type of work that they do. My mother, she worked on a banana plantation for all her life. My father was a local farmer. And from I was like 4 years old, I could see the different standard of living in the communities. And what I did when I started school, and as I grew older, I started to look into life deeply. And it get to a stage by the time I was 11 years old and understanding life a little bit better, I started to wonder of what can I do to literally get myself out of Jamaica and to better my life and that of my family. And so that's what driven me to become a chef by the time I started high school.
And you also told your mother at an early age.
Absolutely. That was when I was 11 years old. One evening I was in the kitchen washing or dishing the dinner. And after she dished my father, she didn't have enough meat left in the pot to share for all 9 of us. And I witnessed her put her hands on her head and started crying. And she looked up to the heavens and she said, "Lord, help my children." And I walked out of the kitchen behind her. And I said, "Mother, when I grow up, I'm going to go to the United States. I'm going to own my own restaurant, and I will get you all you wanted in life."
That's such a dramatic moment.
Absolutely.
It's just really
Absolutely.
something that changed your life.
Absolutely, it did.
And you did it.
I did it. I did it, of course. I did it, of course. From a little boy, I always believed that dreams is for real. And whatever you do in life, you just have to live your dreams. And sometimes you don't have a lot of help from individuals, but you can't give up.
It's quite a long distance from age 11 until you're actually running a restaurant here on Cape Cod.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's a long distance.
Yes.
And there's pages in that book that I wrote that, no distance is too far to walk. When I was in 11th grade in high school, one of my lecturers looked at us one day and said, "When you guys get out there in the working field, if anybody ever asks you, why do you choose to work here, or why do you choose to come here, just tell them that life is a journey. And wherever life's call you, you has to follow." And so from I was a little boy, I have never been afraid to take my chances in life. I have never been afraid to go anywhere. I remember at 20 years old when I started working on the cruise ship, when I walked into the mess hall the first time, most of the men there seems to be twice my age, but I wasn't covered. I was there to represent my life and to represent my family life.
Well, in some ways, it sounds like it was easier after you were grown than when you were smaller. You didn't have running water at home, you didn't have electricity, you didn't have shoes, and sometimes no food.
Absolutely.
And it sounded like your first job was you were selling soda pop bottles in order to be able to pay for your lunch at school.
Absolutely.
So you could play sports and be like the rest of the kids.
Absolutely.
And I find it so interesting how food is throughout your book and throughout your life. And it's so understandable how you became a chef.
Absolutely.
Given there was no food.
Absolutely.
Sometimes.
Absolutely.
You knew how to arrange your life. You were going to have food from then
Absolutely.
on.
What was amazing, as you mentioned that, was that when I started food and nutrition in school, I remember the first day that we walked into the food and nutrition class, and our teacher was walking us through the class, showing us the equipments, you know, and I was there and I was thinking to myself, if she said turn the stove on, I don't know how to do it, but I want to be a chef. And about 6 months ago, I saw a friend that was in food and nutrition class with us. And she looked at me and she said, you know, I'm not surprised that you own your own restaurant because you and Leon was the two smartest students in class. And I was like, what? I don't think so, because I barely come to school. 2-3 days a week. I was to be in the field with my parents is most of my school days. So, you know, it was quite something when she said it.
You know, I think one of the stories that you told in your book, and what is so telling about you, I think, as a chef, is since you had no stove in the house, and you had to cook strictly by a fire,
Absolutely.
wood and fire.
Absolutely.
The way, if you could tell the listeners about the cake,
Absolutely.
wasn't that the first thing you made? Or was it an assignment in school?
The cake was the second thing I made. The first thing was a fish.
Oh, yes.
And
that's right.
that was quite something. But the beauty of that fish that I made that day is that it is my only fish dish on my menu today. That's how I still remember that moment. It was a spectacular moment. It was the first dish that I've made. And
you were how old?
I was 15 years old. And this assignment was given to us, I think it was a Tuesday evening. And I remember walking out of class that day thinking, what am I gonna do? I have no stove at home. I don't have a good pot to cook with. I have nothing. But I have a little bit of money to go buy the fish that teacher told us to buy. And I remember going home the evening and I look at my mother and father and I told them that I have an assignment for the following day, so I can't go to the field with them. And luckily for me, they said, okay. And I remember that morning I gathered up a lot of dry bamboos and a lot of dry wood, and I made a fire outside, right in the sun. And I searched through all the pots that my mother had, and I found the one that I thought was best to use to cook my fish in. And I started the process, and at the end of it, I was happy. I was very, very happy. I remember that day when I finished, I wrapped it and I put it in a plastic bag, and on my way to school, not even the breeze could blow on it. That was how precious it was. And after that day, I then told myself in class that, you know what, Shrimpy, just keep learning and keep doing your thing. The second assignment was the cake, which was very, very tough.
More complicated.
Yes. And I remember the day in class when teacher said, put it in the oven. I was like, what am I going to do now? Because I have no oven at home. But right there, I remember that the previous Christmas, I watched one of my friend, grandmama, bake a cake in a pot with boiling water. And I'm sitting in class, I'm listening to the teacher, reading the recipe and giving us the method. And I'm writing, but I'm also remembering what I saw this old lady did. And before she finished reading the method, I just told myself that I'm going to make this cake just the way I saw that old lady did hers. And I know if I try hard enough as I saw her did, mine will be good enough tomorrow. And the following day, it was a huge task. Took me about 3 to 4 hours, but I get it done because I had was to. And I wasn't gonna let, because I didn't have an oven at home, I didn't bake that cake. I was gonna bake it. And it happened.
It happened.
And I think out of those creations from I was a little boy, adds to the pride that I put in cooking for people. The pride that I put in being in my restaurant, providing customer, loyalty, customer friendliness and all that in my restaurant. I think that pride from I was a little boy of getting it done, creating your own stuff to get to where you want to in life, I think it adds a lot to me as I become an adult.
The interest of those two stories, it shows a number of things about you. One is that you have very good visual memory.
Absolutely.
Because you remembered your grandmother and how she did it, and you also are very intuitive because you were able to create a whole environment for the cake, for the fish, out of scraps.
Absolutely.
And I think that speaks so well of you as a chef.
Absolutely.
Because at a restaurant, they don't require the same extreme of skill that you obviously show.
Absolutely.
And so for you to improvise in a kitchen that has running water,
absolutely,
a stove,
absolutely,
and all these tools. And I was at your restaurant today, and I was laughing about your
thermometers.
Yeah, now he's got those.
What have you got there? You've got thermometers?
You might want to pull one out because the audience may not know.
These are my thermometers.
Yeah, what I carry around is a pen.
It's a pen, absolutely.
But that's my trade.
Yeah.
This is a part of my trade.
So
that's now. Why do you need a thermometer? I mean,
because of temperature. Temperature is very, very critical in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And I think I did learn well, and I keep my principles. I expect when a customer come to my restaurant, they should be satisfied. And satisfying a customer just doesn't mean put a plate of food in front of them. It means presentation, temperature, and taste.
Yeah. And if you cook something too hot and cook it for a shorter time, or cook something too low a temperature for a longer time, you don't get the same result.
Absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely not.
I'm saying that because I assume that's right, but I don't know.
It is right. That is right. That is right, of course.
Yeah. It's got to be right.
Got to be right. It got to be right.
So
the people that I've encountered, I've been at your shop 3 times, as you know. Actually, I guess I should count today a 4th time.
Absolutely.
It was a good meal.
Yes, it was.
Thank you.
And Jamaican jerky taste. Ooh. Well, at the time there was a couple, and since it was my first time that I was there the first time, I said, folks, mind if I'm asking that I'm thinking of doing a show. Is this your first time here? And they said, oh, no. We come regularly to the Cape, and every time we come to the Jerk Cafe.
Absolutely.
And there the man and woman were, and they had on their table 2 bottles of jerky
Chef Shrimpy's
sauce.
jerk sauce, absolutely.
And I thought, wow. They said, no, get some and take it home. This will do a wonderful thing for all the things that you're cooking here.
Absolutely.
I gave one to Carol, and
yes.
Yeah, wow. I don't know how close the camera can get to this.
Absolutely.
But I'll just hold it. Yeah, the first time I was there,
I've tried this, and it's fabulous.
Fabulous. That's my Cape Cod whole cranberry vinaigrette.
Yes.
Yeah. It makes the salad taste the way it should.
Spectacular. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Maybe we can do the book at the same time.
Well, we can hold on. Yeah, or not, right. These two items are available all the time, pretty much.
Absolutely.
So they can get those through your store?
They can get those on my website.
Yeah.
They can get them on eBay. and they can get them in the stores.
But now
in my store on any given day.
Yeah, and this book that Carol is holding, this book is available.
This book is available at the Jerk Cafe in my restaurant. It's available on my website, thejerkcafe.com.
Yeah.
It's available on Amazon.
Yeah, I actually borrowed it from a staff member here. And he said he's going to read it. He hasn't read it yet. He's looking forward to it.
Okay.
You know, as a Jamaican, he has that same wonderful smile that you
Absolutely.
do. Lights up the whole room.
And it's also available at my Hearter's website.
Yeah.
At Trafford.com.
And in a sense, I did look a little at it before I passed it on, and there are quite a bit of the secrets. I mean, hints of the secrets that you have.
Absolutely.
The sauce is the secret, I guess.
Absolutely.
But it also talks about your faith and the importance that is in life, in doing things right and doing things that carry on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's a lot of key things in life that I still live up to, and one of them is my faith. You know, as a little boy growing up, with or without food, mother always pray, and she always sings her Christian songs, and she go to church on Sundays, and sometimes I would accompany her, and so I sort of grew up in a household where there was Christian faith, and I do believe in my faith.
What happened when you told your mother you were coming to America? What was her response?
Her response was, she smiled. She just smiled and said like, And I understand why she did it as I grew older. Because back then in Jamaica, in the community where I was living, there was very few young men or women who was working in the town area. There was very few young men or women who was going abroad. And so, you know, telling my mother that, it literally didn't sound like a reality.
Yeah, she didn't believe you.
She didn't believe me, you know, and she had 9 of us, and when I mentioned that to her, I already had 2 sisters who already grown up practically, started a family, and their life of living was just that of the community, the plantation, to nothing else. And so she didn't believe me. And I remember the evening when I literally get a job later to go work on the cruise ship. She was on the veranda sitting down with my father. And when I went there and I said, "Mother and Father, I'm going to America," she looked at me and she said, "Get away from here and stop making jokes." You know, and I laughed for a little bit, and then I take out the job letter and I said, "Here it is, Mother." And she cried for about 5-10 minutes. But I was happy.
She was happy for you.
Oh, yeah, it was tears of joy.
Yes,
it was tears of joy.
Yes.
I remember my poor father, he was just sitting down there looking.
Well, and I think that's the other piece about your book you were telling me about before we were rolling the cameras, about how you hope that this would be helpful to other children.
Absolutely.
Who are having a hard time.
Absolutely, and that is true anywhere around this world. There is poor families, and I was born and raised in Jamaica, and I know there is many other countries out there where, even right here in America, there's a lot of poor families. There's a lot of broken homes, and there is a lot of kids who are confused just the way I was while I was growing up. And I never succumb to the circumstances that surround my family. I always think that I can make a change in my family. And I always think that there was a better world out there. But that better world, I also knew then that I have to go find it. And if there's anything I have to tell children today is just never give up your dreams and never sit down and depend on solo help from anybody. Think that you can go out there and achieve for your own. Because sometimes a lot of us are left into that situation. And the people who aren't strong enough to know that they can do it themselves, those are usually the ones who fall into crime and despairs, and sometimes by the time we become an adult, our life is already destroyed. And, you know, I think this book is a great book for children, wonderful book for adults. Yeah. There's a piece in it for everybody.
It also might be helpful for the teachers to hear about Mrs. Hanson.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Mrs. Hanson? I hadn't read that part of the book.
Yeah, Mrs. Hanson was like a mother to me. I remember when I walked into her classroom in 2nd grade. By then, I didn't know much of what was going on in school, because I started school in Jamaica when I was 6 years old. The average kid in Jamaica starts school when they're 3. But the reason why I started school when I was 6, it was because of my family circumstances. I practically couldn't go before then because of the poor circumstances, as I said. And so when I get into 2nd grade, Mrs. Hanson literally understands me a lot. And she treated me that way. She knew that I was coming from a poor home. And she never gave the other children a chance to abuse the ones that were very poor. If it ever started in class, she would get at them. Mm-hmm. And she would never let us feel bad. And for that, I truly respect her up until today. And the beauty of her was in 8th grade. Yeah, it was in 8th grade. I was older, and she would talk to us about life on a daily basis. And I was also prolific enough that I would be the head boy for reading groups in class. And I knew then that she saw something in me to granted me that position in class. And for that, I thank her. I really do. And I hope the teachers in this world today can do the same for children that sit in front of them on a day-to-day basis. Because, you know, a lot of kids go to school, and sometimes a lot of us are afraid to talk about her family circumstances. And should we go to school and really discuss her family circumstances? Maybe I would say no, but some teachers are so great that they can look at you and literally know what's going on. Mm-hmm. And Miss Hanson was a person like that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. She was a person like that. And she would help you in whatever situation. She would help you in whatever way she could.
So it was partly her, it was partly your mother, it was also your dreams, both awake dreams and sleeping dreams, that really helped ground you and build your values.
Yes.
And
yes.
I was very touched that your dreams for the more masculine side was like you dreamed about your was it your great-grandfather or your grandfather?
When I was 14, I dreamt of Marcus Mosiah Garvey.
Yeah, that.
And he's a hero in Jamaica, or he was a hero. And he came to this country in 1916. Mm-hmm. He was actually the one who started the Black Star Liner. And then he went back to Jamaica. And he was actually killed in later years by the British. I think he was hanged. And when I was 14 years old, I went to bed one night and I dreamt of him. And when I woke up from the dream, it seemed so real. Up until today, it still seems like a live man standing beside me. And by the time I was 17 years old, he reappeared in the exact same spot that we were standing the first time. And we talked. He handed me 4 stones. And we talked.
He inspired you.
Yes. From the dream at 17, it's like that side of my life started to take a little turn. You know, I started having visions regularly, and some of them can be so plain that exactly what I see in them is what happened tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So, yes, I'm a dreamer. I'm a dreamer.
Well, these things are all part of you as you are now a chef here on
Absolutely.
Cape Cod. And
Absolutely.
You have a different life, I would say, from being a chef in a hidden kitchen or, you know, on a cruise ship. You're not serving the people right there at their tables. You're right there.
Absolutely.
So that part of the experience in going to the Jerk Cafe
Absolutely.
is it's an open kitchen. And so they're seeing you, there's generally reggae music going on, and you got the beat going.
You know, when I was in 8th grade in Mrs. Hanson's classroom, I remember this September when I began school and I walked into that classroom. Above the chalkboard, she carved out some letters and she hung them right above the chalkboard. And it read, "Only the best is good enough." And those were the first words that I wrote in my book that morning. And from that morning, I also told myself that, you know what? Whatever you do in life, if you do it real good, you can be the best. And I'm going to add something to what you just said. I enjoy working in a open kitchen. I want to interact with my guests. I want to show what I can do because I think I'm the best in the kitchen. That's exactly what it is.
Well, today at our meal, there was this plate, and things were arranged just
absolutely,
just wonderfully. But I've got to tell you something you didn't realize, that when I came with my wife's 2 guests just a few days ago and ordered out, we took 3 and I covered them over with a coat so they'd stay extra warm. They would have been warm enough from your packing. And I got them home, and I realized that they were on their side. And it was all mixed up. And
wow.
For many meals, it wouldn't matter. But and it was a great thing to have happened.
Wow.
You want to serve it like that one time.
Maybe. That way you get a chance to taste everything.
Everything at once, yes.
Very, very unexpected. Yeah. Well, I think that's an excellent experience, and to find out more about you, people ought to go to your website, and
absolutely.
all you do is just go to www.thejerkcafe.com.
Correct.
And there are lots of things to learn about.
Correct.
Your life as well as your food.
Absolutely.
And on top of that, there's a map, and it'll show you how to get there.
Absolutely.
And if you're coming from Chatham or Harwich or Dennisport, you drive over the bridge.
Absolutely.
And Bass River, once passed, a few 100 yards more on the left, and there you are.
Side. Absolutely.
Trying to find it the first time, I went into the auto body store, and I said, "Do you know where it is?" And they said, "Just down a few yards." And he smiled, and he said, "You'll enjoy it."
Oh, absolutely.
So I think we've come to the end of our show.
And large portions.
We have to wind it up, or we'll be over time, folks.
Absolutely.
I gotta say, Cape Connect will be on again, and I don't know that we'll ever have as good a show as this one.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Very much.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure. Thank you.